His first leave home became his last. A wedding gathering became his funeral procession. Lieutenant Umar Fayaz, born and raised in Kulgam, killed barely 50 kilometers away from his home. He was unarmed, he was off duty, he was amongst his own people.
The Kashmir insurgency has started eating its own. Anyone in uniform is now an enemy, Kashmiri or not. Two very important voices, PDP's Muzaffar Beg and Lieutenant General Atta Hasnain, who has extensively served in the valley, are joining us in less than 2 minutes. It is our top focus on Epicentre at 7. Before we get to that, a look at the big headlines we are tracking this hour. Cowards is the word for these terrorists. They say they defend Kashmiris, but now they have turned on their own, murdering a 22-year-old Lieutenant Umar Fayaz in Shopian, stones pelted in his village too.
In Delhi, the AAP drama continues. Rebel leader Kapil Mishra is attacked by an AAP volunteer after he accuses Arvind Kejriwal of taking a 2 crore rupee bribe.
Big embarrassment for the Nitish Kumar government. A 5 lakh rupee check for a Sukma martyr's family bounces. The bank has now credited the money.
Talk of misplaced priorities. Thousands of liters of water wasted every single day in Lucknow to clean up a road for Yogi Adityanath. This as Bundelkhand reels under a severe drought.
And out of power but still drunk on it, Samajwadi Party MLA Ramesh Yadav's son slaps a cop in Etah. It is all caught on camera. He was a 22-year-old army officer serving in Akhnoor who had taken leave to attend a wedding in Shopian. But on Tuesday, Lieutenant Umar Fayaz was abducted and shot by terrorists, his bullet-ridden body dumped at a chowk.
But that's not the only disturbing part about this story. During his funerals, locals, people who lived around him, people who he grew up with, pelted stones at the police that was present there. Was this son of the soil not the valley's hero? Take a look.
The funeral of a martyr, 22-year-old Lieutenant Umar Fayaz. A funeral worthy of the sacrifice of the young man. A fallen soldier commissioned in the Indian Army barely 5 months ago. He was cremated with full military honors. Barely 400 civilians attended the ceremony. Compare that to the thousands who collected for the funeral of Burhan Wani, or more recently as well, when militants were shot dead in encounters. On Tuesday night, Lieutenant Fayaz was abducted by 5 to 6 militants from his relative's house in South Kashmir's Shopian district. His bullet-riddled body was found this morning. When the son of the soil was brought home in his final journey, protesters, including people from the village he possibly grew up with, attacked the army and threw stones. Panic set in when an army trooper's gun went off accidentally. Fayaz, a young man from the Sarsan village in Kulgam in happier times in these photographs, sporting the army's trademark crew cut. He passed out from the National Defence Academy, was on the NDA's hockey team, played volleyball, and had been invited to open a showroom in his village. All things anathema to Kashmir's latest crop of homegrown militants, who in a desperate attempt are now targeting their own. Men from the valley who have donned the uniform or taken government jobs.
The government and army have spoken out strongly, calling it an act of cowardice. But the strongest condemnation has come from Rajputana Rifles, the parent unit of this young officer, who have also vowed retribution. But while it's generated a lot of sympathy for this young officer, for the reason that he was not in combat and was a local Kashmiri, it's very difficult to predict whether there would be greater resentment against the militants. In Srinagar, this is Mufti Islam.
Lieutenant Umar Fayaz was from 2 Rajputana Rifles, the same unit to which Kargil hero Captain Vijayan Thapar belonged to. Both were 22 when they died. The army is calling the martyrdom of Lieutenant Fayaz a turning point in the valley, one that will be avenged, they say. Listen in to Lieutenant General Abhay Krishna, Colonel of the Rajputana Rifles.
Lieutenant Umar Fayaz was from my regiment, Rajputana Rifles. It's a tragic loss at the hands of the cowards, barbaric perpetrators called jihadis or the terrorists. He was an outstanding officer, an excellent, absolutely outstanding sportsman. It's a tragic loss. Kashmir has lost their son, and we have lost a very budding, promising young officer. I'm sure the people of Kashmir will realize this. They will join hands and they will hit back at these perpetrators.
And joining us live this evening from Srinagar is senior PDP leader Muzaffar Beg. Muzaffar Beg, Saab, thanks so much for joining us here on Epicenter at 7. Let me ask you this question, sir. A pattern of sorts is emerging. It seems that sons of soil now being looked at as traitors because they are in uniform. Would you call this a change, perhaps, in the very nature of militancy?
First of all, I tell you that I don't find words to express shame for the degradation to which some people have fallen in the valley. Terrorism eats its own children, but the worst loss is the loss of an immoral sense, the sense of humanity. I also feel ashamed that no one tried to rescue this young boy. No one. No one. What can be worse than that? Have we lost sense of honor? Have we lost respect for life, for humanity, for our own children, for our own relatives, for our own neighbors? I don't have words to condemn this. This is radicalization at its worst. This is madness without a purpose. This is a suicide, moral suicide, as well as physical suicide for those who have committed this crime.
Mr. Beg, what explains, according to you, the stone pelting that we saw at the martyr's funeral? Yes, it wasn't at his funeral procession, but it was at the police who was there. For whatever reason it happened, do you think anything in the world can explain the stone pelting that we saw? And what explains the fact, sir, that no one, no Neta from the BJP or the PDP turned up? You are, after all, in power, sir.
You are right. It was a moral obligation, not only political, but a moral obligation to express our solidarity with the family, with those who have lost their young, budding member of their own community, their own blood. But I can't speak and defend those who should have done what was required to be done. I think that these kind of incidents can be explained not as a part of a genuine political struggle to which human beings are entitled anywhere in the world. It can be explained only in terms of madness, which has been seen for the last couple of years growing up in Kashmir. We often talk about Kashmir issue and dialogue and the rest.
Right.
But we don't focus on the fact that there is a material alteration in the operations and the purposes and targets of those who are the assets of a foreign country and who perpetrate these crimes on their own.
Sir, you had
called... It's a mad radicalism.
Yes, sir. Sir, you had called the current political crisis as the darkest period in history and said that Mehbooba Mufti should go back to the people and seek a fresh mandate. Should she do that now? Will you admit that the PDP-BJP government has perhaps no control over the situation in the valley?
See, these are two different issues. One is the nature of the phenomenon that we are witnessing in Kashmir. Certainly is the darkest period. because the so-called political movement has generated into a mad, radical, suicidal, homicidal exercise. So the other issue is, what is it that the Chief Minister can do? I had said that if, despite all of her efforts and the efforts of our cabinet colleagues, if things don't improve, so far as the political and the economic scenario is concerned, I had said that in case she realizes that she is not in a position, despite her best intentions, to deal with the situation, then there is no purpose in just bombing a chair.
Sir, do you think the situation in the valley, sir, do you think the situation in the valley is going from bad to worse? Because what do you have in South Kashmir in the name of administration, sir? What do you really have there?
You see, I am not in a position to comment on, I am not part of the government. So I don't know if we have placed the right kind of police officers in South Kashmir. I'm not sure. But you see, apart from the duty that the police and the government has to do, a society also has certain moral obligations and duties. I cannot imagine that we have become so insensitive, such cowards, that in a marriage where there must have been hundreds of people, a young boy who had committed no crime, that he was taken away and nobody came to his rescue. So this is an indictment, more indictment of the society that we have become. Insensitive, are we cowards? What are we fighting for?
What are we fighting for, and what are the militants fighting for when they decide to murder a young Kashmiri army officer? Beg Saab, thank you very much for joining us. It's always good to get your perspective. Beg Saab joining us from Srinagar this evening. General Ata Hasnain is also with us this evening. General Hasnain, a young 22-year-old Kashmiri army officer martyred. 1,500 people turn up for his funeral. There is some stone pelting as well. Again, compare this to a young 22-year-old terrorist, Burhan Wani, killed last year. 40,000 people show up. What is the message that the valley is trying to send us? You are not a Kashmiri if you don a uniform. You are a traitor if you are loyal to India.
Shreya, let me start by first of all once again expressing my very, very deep regret. I almost felt this morning that I had lost a son. You know, this boy was younger than my younger daughter. And I felt very deeply for this loss, because it's not often that you find an ex-NDA service officer from Kashmir, and I know how proud his parents must have been. And to defer your question for just a few seconds more, let me also endorse almost every word which Beg Saab has said. And I'm extremely happy to see such a voice coming out from Srinagar, where all kinds of awkward voices rise. Beg Saab, in no uncertain terms, has condemned this act, has said that this is an act of terror, it's an act of radicalism. It is being perpetrated by people who have come from across and who are sponsoring this entire thing. So I once again wish to compliment him on the choice of his words and the choice of his sentiments. Right. But having said that, let me tell you, yes, what you say is very correct. 1,500 people turn up for the funeral of a service officer, a martyr. People throw stones at the police party. And 40,000 people turned up for Burhan Wani's funeral last year. Shreya, this is the dilemma which Kashmir has been going through for the last 29 years or 28 years. Not knowing which side to look, which side they are. It is a sentiments of different moments. And somehow the Kashmiri remains confused. Essentially, the narratives that we have been playing with the Kashmiri have, of course, not apparently succeeded. We need to work much harder on these narratives, because it seems that the narratives which are coming from across the line of control, the narratives which are being spelt out by the separatists within the valley, are obviously making a mark on the population. And we need to be conscious of this and ensure that we make a much stronger effort towards changing the narrative.
General Hasnain, do stay with us. I am in fact going across to Epicentre, Srinagar, where my colleague Mufti Islah is joining us from. Mufti, what are the reactions that you have from people on the ground?
Well, this certainly was a tragic incident, and a lot of Kashmiris are actually putting that on Facebook and other social media. And in fact, I'm being joined by two students, a 22-year-old young army officer being killed. It's like Kashmir is devouring its own child. Why do you think this has happened? And is it the street anger, or it's clearly a division in the society?
Well, creating divisions in the society is the work of politicians. I'm a youth activist. Talking from that point of view, I don't see this death, like I don't divide it like whether it has been of a soldier or somebody else. The basic thing is that it is a loss to humanity. A Kashmiri is lost again, and I'm really saddened and pained at this. But at the same time, we need to realize that we don't have to differentiate between deaths. We can't call one death as pious and precious and the other death as something that was a rotten soul and his blood had to be drained away. Like, if we condemn this death, which actually is condemnable, in the same breath we need to condemn the death of 12-year-old minor. We need to condemn all other civilian and innocent killings. And this soldier, he served in Rajputana Rifles. We should also remember that in 1990s, it is the same Rajputana Rifles which was actually condemned and alleged for raping in Kunan and Poshpura by the villagers. We need to condemn that incident also. And we need to realize that what we are actually making out of Kashmir, when the basic institutions of peace are actually damaged, when peace is not being given a chance to develop, when dialogue is not being actually established, when people are not reached to, these things are bound to happen. We need to actually address the basic issues, and we need to give peace a chance to develop. This is what I feel.
Ramiz, I just want to ask you, I mean, there's a lot of anger on the streets. Do you think the situation is worse than 2008, 2010, when you were still growing up, and now you have 2016 and 2017? Clearly, you know, things are drifting, it seems.
As a student of international politics and as a writer, I would like to make some points clear here. Gandhiji had magnificently told that we can never negotiate the things. The power of dialogue, the power of reconciliation should come from the stronger power. That in this case happens to be the Indian state. What has come from their side? Nothing concrete has come from their sides. You look at 2008, even 1990s, when it all started with the violent turmoil, and 2010. The Kashmiris transited from gun to stones. That peaceful transition, that was a huge transition, first ever in the world history, that was never appreciated. And 2 to 3 linked things are with this. The PDP-BJP government has been a disaster, to say the least. They are totally miserably failing on the ground. They are not coming with concrete CBMs to address the political anger on the ground. They are a total failure. And look at today, the choking of democratic space has never happened like in 90s. Today they are thinking of even banning the BSNL broadband. It's a direct attack on our right to life.
And that perhaps explains why people are angry. And clearly these people, the youngsters here, are saying that because this democratic space gets choked, perhaps that's why these students and Kashmiri youngsters are retaliating on the streets.
Mufti Islah reporting from Epicentre, Srinagar. Thank you very much for getting us those voices. General Hasnain, you've just heard 2 youngsters speaking to Mufti Islah from Kashmir. What they are saying is, if we have to condemn the young lieutenant's death, then we should also condemn the death of Kashmiri stone pelters. What has the Indian state done for us? How do you counter that narrative which is going on in the valley? The sort of outrage we saw after Burhan Wani's death, unfortunately, sir, that is not the sort of outrage we are seeing after a young Kashmiri army officer has been gunned down by militants.
Obviously, Shreya, I did not expect that sentiment to arise today. I definitely expected that some people who are definitely pro-India, relatives, those who have their sentiments in the right places, would all come out and be with the family of the young martyr. But obviously I didn't expect a huge turnout, because these are difficult times, and this is not a black and white situation which you can explain to say who is right and who is wrong. Obviously Burhan Wani was involved with violence, had chosen to pick up the gun against the state, was declared a terrorist. He knew he was a terrorist. And when he was killed and gunned down, it was so it was at that time. He was treated by the Kashmiri people as their martyr. That's a different narrative completely. Well, what I would like to tell you here is that although these two voices of these two young men were heard by me in a very focused way, I appreciate what they are saying. I appreciate it. There's no point condemning them just like that. But they must remember that there is a limit to violence. There's a limit to taking things beyond. This is an organized state. You cannot fight the state in this manner. If you have grievances, and populations have had grievances for generations,
Right.
there are ways of fighting for those grievances. Violence is not the best way to do it.
General
And violence is the way that has been chosen by these young men. Then obviously they are going to be countered by violence.
General Hasnain, this kind of disenchantment with the
Yes,
governance
ma'am.
process, many people say that the valley is going back in time to the 1990s. Would you agree?
Shreya, this question is put to me almost every day by someone in the street or someone on a different panel. And I tend to disagree with it. You see, there was a very popular sentiment, there's no doubt, in 1990. It was being felt as if Azadi was going to be declared the very next day. We all remember it. Those of us who have the memories remember it. Today, that sentiment may be there. That sentiment to try and get Azadi or whatever they wish to, that sentiment is very much there on the street today. There is a tremendous, very animated and a very violent objection against the Indian state. There is no doubt. But I don't think anyone today believes that Azadi is about to come. I don't think anyone believes that Pakistan banega, Kashmir banega Pakistan today. Today you have to understand the situation from both sides. You have to understand that there are grievances, there is violence in the street, but with experience of 28 years, the state has also got a reasonable degree of control. We have a strong security system, a strong intelligence system. We have a good control over the border. And obviously, therefore, I think the Kashmiri people have to realize that this kind of an attitude and this kind of a campaign can be fought for many years and is not going to produce the kind of results which they are aiming at. In 1990, it appeared to them that they did not have the experience at that time.
Sure.
They did not realize that what they were fighting for was unachievable. Today, the same sentiment and the same sentiment is being played out again. But I think they are completely wrong in believing that they can fight a state as big as India. A state which can actually reach out to them in a very big way.
And it is.
There are ways and means of doing it.
And the state,
India has a very large heart, which I have always been saying.
And the state, sir, I think
it can absorb much of what the Kashmiris wish to actually say.
So, and I think the state has been trying to reach out. Not very successful.
Sorry, say that again, Shreya.
So I'm saying I think the state is trying to reach out, not very successfully, I'm afraid. General Hasnain, it's always good to get your perspective. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you very much indeed.
Shreya, the bigger question is that most of those have grown in the spirit of instability. So 1990s onwards, so most of them are in their 20s. So that is the issue and perhaps a bigger concern for the Indian state.
Fayaz was 22 years old.
Just 22 years old. On that note, we're slipping into a short break. Coming up, part 5 of CNN News 18's explosive Aam Aadmi Party investigations. Today, we'll unravel Satyendra Jain's web of lies and shell companies. Details when we return. Stay with us. Over the last few days, CNN News 18 has revealed bogus entries in Aam Aadmi Party's income tax details. Today, we are coming out with part 5 of our investigations. We reveal how Delhi's health minister used 125 shell companies to convert crores of black money into white and evade the tax authorities.
This is some smart bookkeeping by Satyendra Jain that was meant to be a secret. Shubhajit Sen Gupta with this special investigation this evening from Kolkata.
CNN News 18's relentless investigation exposed this man, Satyendra Jain, the man who Kapil Mishra alleges has bribed even the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. Jain used his position as the Urban Development Minister to buy land which was soon to be converted from agricultural use to residential plots. Now CNN News 18 has dug deep into the maze of deception that Jain built to hide the money to buy the lands, all from confessions of Jain's chartered accountants to income tax officers. He used 3 chartered accountants to convert over rupees 16.39 crore from black to white since 2011. These chartered accountants used smart bookkeeping and some 125 shell companies to confuse the IT sleuths. During this period, Jain was director of these 3 companies: Indo Metal Impex Private Limited, Akhnoor Developers Private Limited, JJ Ideal Estate Private Limited. According to the income tax report accessed by CNN News 18, Satyendra Jain had put into these companies his own tax-evaded cash through Kolkata-based shell companies in the form of share capital. Indo Metal Impex received 6 crore 42 lakhs rupees. Akhnoor Developers received 1 crore 83 lakhs rupees. A commission of 1,65,000 was paid to these chartered accountants. But what do these companies do? CNN News 18 found out all these 125 companies were registered at just 3 addresses. 2 of them in Kolkata's infamous area called Black Street, the headquarters of cash converting companies from across the country, and one of them a couple of kilometers away. Now see what CNN News 18 found when it tracked down each of these 3 addresses. 85 NS Road, 3rd floor, room number 311, Kolkata 1. 25 Strand Road, 7th floor, room number 757, Kolkata 1. 18A Ramakanto Bose Street, Kolkata 3. And this is what we found at these addresses.
So this is 311 of 85 NS Road, and this is the one which income tax authorities say has the maximum number of shell companies. You can see this is the main office, and when we first came in it was locked. Now it is completely empty. There's nothing that can be seen inside. So clearly something wrong or sinister is going inside. These are how the shell companies operate. We are going to take a look into the other 2 addresses as well. Let's see what we get there.
Next we went to the Strand Road office. Surely enough, this too was a single room setup. And when we went to the room number 757, the occupants mentioned that the said owner has not been here for at least 2 to 3 years.
अब नहीं है कितने दिन पहले से नहीं 2 साल हो गया.
Our next stop, 18A Ramakanto Bose Street, Shampukur, Kolkata. According to the records of the Registrar of Companies, there are over 15 firms registered at this address. But again, our check revealed this is actually a residential quarter.
Clearly at 18A Ramakanto Bose Street, there is no office. This is a residential area. If I can just show you around, this is the place where people stay. There is absolutely no office which is there. But this is the address which has been given for a number of companies, again shell companies as per the income tax sources and the papers that we have, which were used to turn black money white.
All 3 addresses turned out to be fake addresses of companies which exist only on paper. These paper companies or shell companies appear to have only one job: to convert Satyendra Jain's black money into white and help him evade the income tax, so that he could further invest this money into lands whose valuation would soon skyrocket. In Kolkata, this is Shubhajit Sen Gupta.
Is this how you implement your anti-corruption India? Now, that is a question I would have liked to put to the Aam Aadmi Party. We had requested them for a guest on the show to react to this special investigation that Shubhajit Sen Gupta has got for us this evening, but they decided not to send anyone on the show. I thought I should let all of you know that. Shubhajit Sen Gupta, you're joining us live this evening. First of all, tell us what the criminality is, and just break it down for me. This is black money we are talking about, and this is tax evasion we are talking about.
Absolutely. This is absolutely what we are talking about, is tax evasion. This is an IT report which we've accessed, and on the basis of that we went in and investigated all these companies whose names have come out. And it's clearly seen that all three companies, you saw it for yourself, are all companies which are either not there or are just single room is present, and that all these kind of trades are taking place. Now if we come to the criminality of it, I'll again read out from a government document which says that Mr. Jain not only engaged in converting his black money into white through money laundering, he's also invested this black money to purchase lands by making cash payments to landowners in addition to the check payments. This has led to evasion of stamp duty. So if you're looking at the kind of criminality which is involved, A, evasion of stamp duty, B, tax evasion, C, we're also looking at whether he's used his official position as a minister in Delhi to find out which lands would be converted from agricultural use to to residential use, and hence invest in those lands. So yes, we are looking at such very strong section, including some sections under Prevention of Corruption Act, and even as we speak, the CBI is making some strong inquiries in this case.
Shubhajit, 125 shell companies. How did the Income Tax Department arrive at this number? And does this really give credence to Kapil Mishra's allegations that in fact it was Satyendra Jain who gave 2 crores to Arvind Kejriwal?
Well, I'll come to the second part first, whether this money is involved in the money which Kapil Mishra speaks of, which was given by Satyendra Jain to Kejriwal. Now, we do not know whether the transaction has taken place or not. The records that we have here say that this money was used to buy lands. But again, the allegation which has been made by Kapil Mishra is also pertaining to certain lands, some which were allotted, which were bought, which were again some lands which were for agricultural use, which were to be converted into residential areas. But coming to how did they arrive to this figure of 125 companies? Now, Satyendra Jain had used 3 basic chartered accountants who were working for him. Now, what happens in these, what is locally called Jama Kachi companies, the companies which exist only on paper, you route 1% of your money into one of these companies and show this as an expense. Now, this is nothing but a paper transaction. Now, the same money is rotated into 5 different places. Now, that goes to 25 different places. So, the loop goes on to evade the tax sleuths, so that the sleuths get tired of seeing from where the money had transacted and goes through via a maze of 125 companies to come back to him, and this time back as black money. And this is the money which, according to the income tax, he invested in buying lands at prices which are officially less than the circle rate, but unofficially paid in cash.
Shubhajit, stay with us. In fact, joining us now on this story, this investigation by Shubhajit, are our guests now. RP Singh is the member of the BJP, Sunita Godara, former Anna team member, joining us here in the studio, and also Pawan Khera, spokesperson of the Congress. RP Singh, I'm coming to you first. 125 shell companies, that's how Satyendra Jain routed the black money. This investigation by Shubhajit is elaborate, extensive, and it unravels the maze. What is your first reaction?
Satyendra Jain claims that Mr. Kejriwal and Satyendra Jain's friendship goes back some 15 years. And Mr. Kejriwal, before joining the movement, movement against India against corruption, he was an IRS officer. Probably Mr. Kejriwal advised him how to route this money through 125 shell companies and then get them back to his own companies, and then use that money to buy lands, and then being in government trying to convert. And this happened till 2015. As per my knowledge, this has happened till 2015. But I'm shocked that why did Mr. Satyendra Jain go by advice of Mr. Kejriwal, who was a bad IRS, who was a bad revenue service officer, who couldn't give him good advice.
Pawan Khera, one after the other, we are seeing allegations of corruption come out from the Aam Aadmi Party. First, Kapil Mishra, one of their own, makes an allegation that Arvind Kejriwal himself has taken a bribe of 2 crore rupees from Satyendra Jain, his health minister. Then There were reports, in fact, this is an expose that we ourselves here at CNN News 18 broke about how they fudged their donation list. Today, we are seeing massive income tax evasions. The Congress is surprisingly quiet as far as all these charges are concerned. We are seeing the BJP take a lead, Mr. Khera, but not the Congress. Why aren't we hearing from you?
I wonder, I don't understand why you say that. We've been talking about it for the last several weeks. Kejriwal stood for and tom-tommed a new brand of politics, and voters innocently also invested their trust in that brand of politics, and that stands exposed. My problem here is, my submission here is, why is Mr. Kejriwal quiet? Why isn't he coming out clean? Is there friendship, or as RP just said, or is there partnership? Is he complicit? Is he scared of Satyendra Jain? These are several questions that Mr. Kejriwal should, instead of behaving like a petulant child every time he's cornered, should come out clean. He owes it to the voters of Delhi, people who had faith in him. Today, people are shocked.
Pawan Khera is talking specifically about this report of Shubhajit Sen Gupta. Shubho, in fact, visited all those addresses as well, and he found out that these are fake addresses. This extensive maze of deception. When we look at this particular story, this particular investigation of CNN News 18, how will you react to this? What will be Congress's response to this story?
Though it's not a very good thing for a politician to congratulate a journalist, it's not a badge of honor for a journalist, but I must compliment Shubhajit for this extensive research. It's brilliant. And it requires a criminal mind to get into these. What were these guys doing, these ministers and leaders of the AAP? It has to be a criminal mind who gets into a web of companies and creates such complicated. I mean, why? What do they have to hide? Why can't they just lead transparent, normal lives that they expect everybody else to lead? They were very good at accusing others. Now, where are they? They are not even there in your studios. Why?
That's correct. I mean, yes, this is something that we need to put out, that we did request the Aam Aadmi Party for a representative on the show, on this panel. They refused. It's a good question you asked. Why can't people lead more transparent lives? And this is a question that the Aam Aadmi Party has asked of Robert Vadra as well, Mr. Khera. But that's another story. Quickly, let me go to Sunita ji, who is joining us in the studio. You're a former member of the Anna team. You're saying not the Aam Aadmi Party, but the Anna team. When you look at, acquisition after acquisition, charges after charges being made against the Aam Aadmi Party, what's your first reaction? Is the dream dead?
See, I didn't have any dream when they, from Andolan, they made a party. That time, I was the only one saying from the day one that they are putting cart before the horse. They don't have any infrastructure to make a party. They didn't have 1,000 crores behind so that they can run a party. So now they are doing that small little chori everywhere. And these are small chores. Congress is saying whatever they are saying, they have done a big chori. Everybody knows that. And now our party, they had such a good mandate, and with that they should have proved themselves, but they are not. They are doing the same thing what other party politicians are doing, and Kejriwal sitting silent is really shameful. Really shameful. The person who was a very good Krantikari, every day speaking about India against corruption and things like that, and today everything is on the screen, everything is proven,
and then also it was about EVM machines.
And they are talking about those stupid,
EVM machines, the full drama that played out in the assembly.
And I don't know what will come out with that. But then when he knows that something is happening and the money laundering or whatever has happened, Satyendra Jain has done that, then why can't he just chuck him out? But there is something behind. That is why he's not saying something else.
Sunita ji, thank you very much for being with us, and Pawan Khera, thanks very much for being with us as well, RP Singh as well. That is a question, why are we not hearing from Arvind Kejriwal? And if there are such serious charges being made against Satyendra Jain, why don't you just throw him out pending an investigation? It's a simple thing to do.
That's what you did with Kapil Mishra.
Well, that's what you did with Kapil Mishra, exactly.
On that note, we are slipping into a short break. In fact, we are putting out that story on news18.com. You can share your thoughts as well. Coming up, thousands of liters of water wasted every single day in Lucknow to clean up a road for Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. We'll get you details when we return. Stay with us here on Epicenter. Two sets of pictures coming from Uttar Pradesh, and both reflect a sense of VVIP entitlement. First, take a look at this. Thousands of liters of water wasted every single day to clean the road leading to Secretariat before Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath drives in.
And now take a look at this, another set of pictures. This is Samajwadi Party MLA Ramesh Yadav's nephew slapping a police officer in Etah. He was brought to the police station after he got into a scuffle with doctors at the hospital. And one would have expected some sort of action against him, but no action has been taken. With that, it's a wrap from us.
Thanks so much for watching. Do join us again tomorrow, Epicenter at 7. This is your destination for all the news and alternate views.
Good night.